Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we finally have from Jane Remover, Census Designated. So if we're looking at hyperpop slash glitch pop albums that got a ton of critical acclaim in 2021 but just did not hit for me, Frailty felt like the other side of the coin to underscores his breakthrough Fishmonger, the glittery bit crush mix that just would never explode every time you hoped it could, the processed vocals, the meandering runtime, the emo wallowing, the neglect of groove despite all the dabblings with dance textures. It was a definition of a sound that was just not remotely built for me and just did not click even if I loosely grasped the appeal and I mostly liked the writing, so I just sidestepped covering it altogether. But with her transition and adoption of the name Jane Remover, and the buzz was suggesting this was an outright shoegaze album running an hour long, okay, I was at least curious, and thus I hate to be the bearer of bad news that while I say this works a lot better for me than Frailty, I still didn't really love it, and some of that comes through the buzz being kind of misaligned, and that I would barely call this a shoegaze project compared to a deliberate throwback to mid-90s alternative, specifically noise rock, and that does not have to be a bad thing. I can be in the audience for that sound. Until you realize that a lot of the lingering problems I had with Frailty, they've diminished, but they haven't gone away. The bass lines and drums, they've got more presence, but they lack definition, failing to create any sense of real momentum. The riffs finally have some explosive power now, but they've come at the expense of more tuneful hooks, or really any melody that can really pay off the swell. And stuck amidst all this is that vocal mix, which is still very heavily processed and surrounded by a lot of weedy glitch and sampled fragments, and it's now fighting for air against the thicker distortion. And it certainly creates a distinctive texture and atmosphere that I can imagine myself liking if I thought more of these compositions were stronger. Hell, when I discovered that the music video for the title track was directed by Quedeca, I wasn't even surprised. There's a lot of overlapping creative DNA mingled with my continued frustration that the alchemy of it all just does not coalesce for me. Now, for what it's worth, I'll repeat myself, I think the lyrics and poetry can be really strong. A stark blur of some very niche callbacks, especially to Ethel Cain, and emotions that definitely wear the emo influences on its sleeve, where the raw brutality of these relationships on display, it's also largely metaphorical for specific expressions of trans identity, femininity, tainted affections, substance abuse, loneliness, depression, and very much even the predatory music industry. And while the angst-wrapped, somewhat submissive coding can amplify some of that discomfort at the scenes, the more expansive framing and lack of any glamorization in the very flawed relationships, where even if the power dynamic is completely distorted, we're also intentionally getting incomplete, kind of impressionistic pictures, it leads to a more nuanced and honestly slightly frightening picture to some of these scenes. And thus, as a whole, look, it's a tough one, because the more listens I gave to this, the more I mostly grasped the sound, caught more of the intended hooks, and the writing is absolutely strong enough in order to pull me in. It just made me wish that I really liked this more. As it is for now, I think there's just a gap in the execution of the sound that keeps it from fully clicking for me. Call it a project I respect more than I love, but the emotional nuance and the flavor, it's gonna keep me intrigued for wherever the hell Jane Remover goes next, and I absolutely think there's going to be younger folks who will get way more into this than I will. So, call that a recommendation? I guess it is worth hearing. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more reviews, please be sure to like and subscribe, maybe drop some comments, share this around. I know that for a lot of diehard Jane Remover fans, I'm probably coming across as a little too harsh. Again, it's an album I respect, it just didn't fully click. I gotta be honest with that. Beyond that though, if you guys want to help argue with me more directly on my Discord, link to my Patreons over there, also helps support the channel. That's always appreciated, especially as recommendations are now closed for the year. They'll reopen in 2024 though. But as always, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.